dynamic in its evolution. Border security, therefore, must be more than a matter of infrastructure and surveillance. It must be a comprehensive effort that builds institutional resilience. It enhances intelligence cooperation and integrates both technological innovation and community-based approaches. And importantly, it must do so in a manner that respects international law, protects human rights, more effectively to prevent cross-border movements of terrorists and their resources and to foster international cooperation. This includes enhancing passenger and cargo screening, promoting advanced data systems, and expanding the use of Interpol and other information sharing platforms. More specifically, we're working to expand our tailored support to member states through developing integrated border management strategies that combine security with facilitation of legitimate movement. We're scaling up training for border officials on the use of advanced passenger information and passenger name recognition API PNR systems, which are in line with ICAO standards and the UN Security Council resolutions, which mandate their implementation for preventing the movement of terrorists and including foreign terrorist fighters. We're supporting regional information sharing and joint risk analysis mechanisms and promoting partnerships that bring together governments, regional organizations, and the private sector to strengthen border security in a sustainable manner. In this regard, we've seen how integrated border security and management approaches in West Africa are yielding positive results. They're enhancing coordination amongst agencies, pooling resources, and streamlining the flow of information across borders. These lessons can serve as useful models for East Africa, where similar approaches could be adapted. UNOCT is very proud to be part of this agenda, and through our Nairobi Program Office, we continue to work alongside national governments, regional organizations, and international partners to deliver capacity-building initiatives that are practical, that are needs-based, and that are grounded in local realities. We're encouraged by the collaborative spirit that underpins this caucus and caucuses that have been held previously. And we see through the diversity of the stakeholders represented here, from security personnel, policymakers, civil society, the need for our enhanced collaboration. Now, since our establishment, we've been able to achieve quite a lot, and this is with thanks to Kenya, to the government of Kenya for the support that they've given to UNOCT's Nairobi Program Office. In fact, this year we've been able to hold several coordination meetings, and coming up, we will also be collaborating with our dear partners from the United Kingdom to hold a similar regional engagement, bringing member states of the region together. Now, over the next 2 days, I hope we engage in honest dialogue. We develop concrete, forward-looking solutions. Let's listen, let's share openly, and let's focus not only on what needs to be done in terms of disruption, but also what needs to be strengthened through cooperation, coordination, and collective resilience. And finally, let me note that these opening remarks that I share with you today, they serve as a precursor to a presentation that will be made later today by UNOCT on API PNR, where we'll take a dive into technical aspects of these tools and their importance for strengthening regional border security frameworks. UNOCT stands ready through our Nairobi Program Office, but also through our global programs to continue supporting Kenya's efforts and other member states of the region in your efforts towards border security and beyond. I thank you, and I wish you a productive deliberations.
Thank you very much, Sylvia, and on behalf of member states in the region, we appreciate the role that the UNOCT plays, and especially your regional programs office, in delivering resources and capabilities to member states in the region. This evolved nature, of course, speaks to the very contextualized challenges that we face and the solutions that we are able to provide. Next, we are going to hear from Director Tubsam, speaking on behalf of his counterparts in the region. Honorable Abdullah is technically the Dean of Regional City Heads, being the senior most among them, and we invite him to come and speak on behalf of his colleagues. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues from across the region and beyond, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Allow me to begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to the National Counter-Terrorism Center of Kenya for convening this landmark conference, the Nairobi Caucus. And my special thank you to the Kenya government for hosting us here in Nairobi, Kenya. The Nairobi Caucus platform has become a beacon of cooperation, symbolizing our collective determination to confront and overcome the challenges of terrorists that continues threatening to our region. Excellencies, for more than 2 decades, our region has endured cycles of violence driven by terrorism. Both local and foreign fighters have systematically undermined stability, threatening peace, security, and the development of our nations. Today, both Al-Shabaab and Daesh remaining the most significant lethal terrorist organizations with a presence across our region and beyond. It is against this backdrop that the theme of this year's caucus, enhancing border security to Deter and disturb terrorism movements, assumes great importance for all member states of our region. Excellencies, in 2023, the Somali government, with the support of the regional and international security partners, launched decisive military offensive targeting Al-Shabaab core stronghold. And this operation has reclaimed an estimated 400 kilometers of strategic territories, severely disturbing the group's logistical network and recruitment pipelines. And also more than 3,000 fighters, including high-value targets, were neutralized and substantial caches of weapons and vehicles were destroyed. Equally critical was the success in disturbing terrorist financing and Shabaab's long-standing reliance on extortion, illicit taxation, and forced zakat collection was curtailed. With the losses of checkpoints, markets, and revenue sources of the group's income fell or decreased nearly 35%, significantly undermining its operational capacity both inside Somalia and across the border. This campaign, among the most intense since Al-Shabaab's emergency 2 decades ago, would not have been possible without the steadfast support of the neighboring states and international partners. And this demonstrates beyond a doubt that it is indispensable the value of regional alliance in confront such transnational threats. However, since the beginning in 2005, we have witnessed that Al-Shabaab renewed the terror attacks as the group seeks to retake the territories lost in 2023 and 2024. And even more concerning are its growing transactional ties with the Houthis in Yemen. This link is based not on ideology, but on the exchange of weapons, explosives, and technical experts. This nexus now poses a grave threat to maritime security in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, compounding an already volatile regional security environment. Meanwhile, the so-called Islamic State in Somalia have shown resilience for the past decade. ISIS has primarily operated in Somalia, facing financial struggles, clashes with Al-Shabaab, and targeted airstrikes. Yet, by early 2024, estimated placed its strength at 1,200 to 1,500 fighters, the majority being from Africa and Middle East. Despite the sustaining losses in Somalia's Al-Muscat Mountains, ISIS remaining active, and intelligence reports suggest that the foreign fighters are increasingly dispersing into the neighboring states and Yemen, facing the prospect of the wider regional spillover of ISIS. Excellencies and colleagues, the threat posed by Al-Shabaab and ISIS is real, persistent, and increasingly transnational. Their adaptability and their revolving criminal networks and their sustained capacity of violence underscores the urgency of sustained regional coordination. To secure a durable peace and stability, we must go beyond short-term military gains, and we must consolidate the territorial achievement, invest in counter-ideological narratives, dismantle terrorist financial systems, and reinforce robust mechanisms to regional cooperation. Only through a comprehensive multidimensional approach can contain and ultimately defeat the threats. In conclusion, our collective security depends on the strength of our partnership. Let us continue standing together with resolve, harnessing our shared resources, intelligences, and political will to secure future peace, stability, and prosperity of our region. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those very grounded insights. Next, it is my privilege to invite the EU Head of Delegation, Her Excellency Ambassador Henrietta, to come and make her remarks.
Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. Excellency Dr. Raymond Omolo, Director TUPSAN, Director UNOTC, Director NCTC Kenya, and distinguished experts, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and privilege to address this distinguished gathering at the 4th Nairobi Caucus. And I would like to express the deep appreciation of the European Union to Kenya's National Counter-Terrorism Center for convening this platform and for inviting us to contribute. The theme of this year's caucus could not be more timely. As we gather here in Nairobi, we are witnessing an evolution in the global security landscape that demands innovative, collaborative, and above all, locally owned solutions. The European Union's presence here today reflects our firm commitment to the European Union-Africa partnership in addressing shared security challenges. It shows our recognition that in today's interconnected world, security challenges cross all borders, and therefore solutions must be shared. The expansion of the Nairobi Caucus to include for the first time representation from West Africa marks an important milestone. It demonstrates the continental recognition of this platform as a genuine African-led initiative that transcends regional boundaries. The European Union commends Kenya's leadership in fostering this expansion and creating space for authentic South-South cooperation in counterterrorism. What makes this caucus different from many other international by Kenya and Kuwait? And it serves as an effective platform for mobilizing resources and fostering cooperation amongst stakeholders across the region. And through this, we are trying to share best practices to support East African border security objectives. Our support to the Nairobi caucus reflects the broader European Union commitments backed by substantial resources. Through our development cooperation, we have allocated over 29 billion euros, that's more than $29 billion, and I don't have the figure in Kenyan shillings, specifically for sub-Saharan Africa for the period 2021 to 27. And this is representing the largest regional allocation that the European Union has made in external funding. So many say, look where the priorities are, you can see that where the money flows. So we are putting our money where our mouth is. We have, in complementarity to that, we have also allocated further resources through the African Peace Facility. You all know that the EU has been a long supporter of AU missions, not only, but primarily in Somalia. Now, I would like to say something about the project IEAC, which was supported by the European Union to successfully connect 6 East African community countries to Interpol's I-24/7 system, which is a global secure communication network greatly improving real-time screening and cross-border intelligence sharing. In late 2024, a coordinated Interpol-AFRIPOL operation across 8 East African countries resulted in the arrest of 37 suspected terrorists, along with seizures of small arms and heavier weaponry. These are not just statistics. They represent disrupted networks and potentially prevented attacks, and therefore may have saved lives. So, when East African border officers verify travelers against Interpol's global watch list of terrorists and criminals, these can dramatically increase regional security. The European Union has built strong partnerships also with the regional institutions that possess local legitimacy and operational capacity. We have also supported IGAD through initiatives like the Promoting Peace and Stability in the Horn of Africa program, which directly strengthens regional security coordination. And of course, our continued support to the Eastern African Police Chiefs Cooperation Organization and AFRIPOL enhances real-time intelligence sharing across borders. Effective border security must strike a delicate balance because we have legitimate trade interests and we have to secure those with our legitimate interests of security. This is not an easy task, and every country has to find their own solution. But we cannot sacrifice one on the back of the other. That is clear, and the EU has learned that lesson by opening its borders across the 27 member states. So this is a continuous balancing act between security, open trade of persons and goods. What is very important, and I will come to conclusion, is that we involve the communities in the borderlands. As I said before, they are very important part of the equation. Without the support of the community, security forces stand really isolated. And with buy-in of the communities, they can help with early warning and working hand in hand with the security forces. If they work against the security forces, we have lost already. We need their buy-in. This is very key. And that also needs development. Without socio-economic development, you will not be able to get the necessary buy-in. When we talk about borders, we very easily get into a temptation to look at land borders, but we have sea borders as well. So nowadays, there is a lot happening in terms of trafficking at sea, be it drugs, be it illegal migrants, be it human trafficking, you name it. And of course, we know in East Africa and West Africa also piracy is an issue. And whatever is, let's say, organized crime, we know there are connections to terrorist financing as well. So we have to keep all of that on our radar screen. And the EU has worked especially in East Africa, but also West Africa, to disrupt those networks through Operation Atalanta, for example, or EU Cup Somalia. So I will not go into details here, but just looking forward, I would like to say that we are looking forward to first strengthen institutional coordination within and between states. Second, leveraging technology as a force multiplier. I don't want to go into details on that because you're all experts. But we have to use everything at our disposal, including satellite monitoring and the cybersecurity space tools, and we have to share these resources. Third, fostering the community-centered approaches. I already talked about this. Local population should not be disregarded, and their contribution can be immense. Fourth, strengthening of judicial and prosecutorial capacity. So, of course, security is nothing if there is no follow-up with interdiction and prosecution. So we need to work together also in this area across borders. Fifth, addressing the nexus between development and security. I already talked to that. So, concluding here, I think we have more than just a conference. We have a vision for cooperative security. And we need to expand that if we want to be successful. The European Union has long seen the products and the fruits of this transboundary collaboration. First within the European Union and then beyond. And we know also, and we are firmly convinced, that the European Union's security depends largely on the security you have in the other regions. Nowadays, we cannot stand in isolation. So I would just like to close by saying, if terrorists are not respecting human lives, we have to. Whatever we do in terms of disruption, we have to keep core principles of respect for human rights and human dignity. This, at least, is how the European Union defines its approach to counterterrorism, and I hope this is shared amongst all of us, because we cannot be at the same level as the terrorists. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. The investments that the EU have made in both our national and continental security are transformational, and we appreciate the support that you have extended to us, including even in the convening of this caucus. It is now my honor to invite our convener, our Director General. Today also happens to be his first year birthday as Director General of NCTC, so happy birthday, Director. All the best.
Thank you, Fred. Our Chief Guest, the Principal Secretary for Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omolo, Your Excellency, the EU Head of Delegation, Ambassador Henrietta, Excellencies, Ambassadors, High Commissioners, esteemed Heads of Delegation, valued partners, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Hamjambo. Guten Morgen. All that. Shukran sana. So it's with great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the 4th Nairobi Caucus. To those visiting Kenya, a very warm welcome to our vibrant capital city, Nairobi. I trust that you are enjoying the unique ambience, the Kenyan hospitality, and perhaps even the crisp, chilly weather that adds a refreshing touch to our beautiful city. I can see Madam Henrietta is well dressed for our Kenyan winter. In Swahili we say, karibu sana. Distinguished delegates, I'm honored to stand before you today as we set the tone for this year's Nairobi Caucus, being the 4th edition since its inception, focusing on a topic of paramount importance to our national security, enhancing border security to deter, disrupt terrorist activity. Our borders are not merely lines on a map. They are the front lines of our defense against a persistent and evolving threat. In a world where terrorism knows no boundaries, the integrity and security of our borders are the first and the most critical layer of protection for our nation and our people. The threat we face is transnational in nature. Terrorist organizations exploit porous borders, sophisticated travel networks, and modern technology to move personnel, financing, and weapons. They seek to evade detection and exploit weaknesses in our security architecture. The challenge is immense, but so is our resolve. We recognize that a fragmented approach to border security is a failed approach. Ladies and gentlemen, the National Counterterrorism Center, Kenya, is coordinating mechanism to counterterrorism efforts, the counterterrorism efforts in the country in order to detect, deter, and disrupt terrorist acts as well as to prevent violent extremism. In the same breath, the center is at the forefront of strategically coordinating the entire spectrum of terrorism, ranging from radicalization, violent extremism, terror financing, and the linkage with transnational organized crime. The success of our efforts hinges on a whole-of-government approach and a whole-of-society approach that fosters seamless collaboration among all agencies and stakeholders. We are grateful indeed, Ambassador, for the support the EU has given us. We are now in the process of launching the second phase of the EU support this financial year for the next 4 years, and courtesy to the support of the EU. Very grateful indeed, and I think you've spoken it well. Soft programs across this country. And I must thank the PS before he became also his position. In the first phase, he was very instrumental in Kisumu, rolling out, and those programs, sir and your excellency, are still alive. And I was telling the PS, these are things we are sustaining for the support during the phase one. Even in Mombasa, we're doing livelihood support and all that. And we commit as a center to carry on and make those programs alive. So we're grateful indeed, together with Kuwait, under the East African Working Group. We're always together. They convene conferences in Kuwait, we go there. We convene in Nairobi. They really support us to roll out some of these soft approaches, where government is at the lowest level of society. Livelihood support, early warnings, policy and practice, and all those things under our NSP-CBE program that we are rolling out. Even UNDP, the support of UNFCT has been massive. We are now rolling out also together with the UNDP soft power programs with the KOICA, Korean International Agency, across the country. And we're really relying on support of the EU and even the PS himself under the Ministry of Interior. That infrastructure is what we are thriving on as a center. And we are really grateful indeed. So today I want to highlight 3 key points in reference to this year's theme. First, we must strengthen intelligence sharing and analysis. Our borders are only as secure as the information that informs decision making. We need to move beyond traditional intelligence gathering methods and embrace a more integrated, data-driven approach. This includes real-time intelligence sharing among domestic and international partners, leveraging advanced analytics to identify patterns of terrorist travel, and utilizing biometrics to create a more robust system to identify verification. Second, we must modernize our border infrastructure and technology. The era of relying on physical barriers and manual checks is proving inadequate. We must invest in modern technology, including advanced surveillance systems, drone technology, and secure communication networks. These tools allow us to monitor fast and often difficult terrain, detect threats from a distance, and respond with speed and precision. They are force multipliers that enhance the capabilities of our dedicated border security personnel. Finally, and most importantly, we must deepen our international and regional partnerships. And we are grateful indeed that I can see across the floor people from within the region and beyond, and meet a lot of friends that I've met across the region, even internationally, and it's exciting indeed for the support we get and the interest that has been generated because it's no longer a security for Kenya alone, but for the region. So no single country can defeat terrorism alone. The threat is global and must be, and so must be our response. We must closely, with our neighbors and international allies, create a unified front. This means harmonizing our policies, conducting joint operations and trainings, and sharing good practices to close loopholes and prevent terror organizations from exploiting regional weaknesses. Esteemed delegates, the Nairobi caucus is a powerful demonstration of how international and regional collaboration can help us confront the unique security threat we face. It provides a platform where we can reflect our shared commitment to dialogue, partnerships, and proactive action in addressing the borderless terrorism threat. As I conclude, let us remember that enhancing border security is not just about keeping threats out. It's about building a safer, more resilient nation. It means protecting our way of life, our economy, and our democratic values. This is a continuous and a complex endeavor, one that demands our unwavering commitment and collective effort. I am confident that through innovation, collaboration, and a united front, we'll succeed in our mission to deter and detect terror activity and safeguard our nations for generations to come, because terrorism, I think, will be with us for a long time to come. And therefore, what we do today, we must look strategically ahead so that we can address the threat, so that the future generations can also enjoy a good life. By standing together, share intelligence, investing in innovation, and building trust across nations, we can outpace those who seek to harm our people and destabilize our communities. Let us act decisively, Let us act together, let us act now to secure our borders, protect our citizens, and uphold the values that define us. Thank you for your kind attention, and I wish all of you a successful deliberation. Now it's my singular honor to invite our chief guest, our main speaker today, PS, Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Omolo. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, DG. Excellencies, ambassadors, led by the EU representative, Balozi Henriette, the DG National Counter-Terrorism Center, Keegan, distinguished heads of delegations, our valued partners, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. I know it's a cold Tuesday morning in Nairobi, but I'm sure you enjoy the weather. Allow me, on behalf of the government and the people of the Republic of Kenya, to begin by welcoming you all to Nairobi. And I also wish to acknowledge the distinguished presence of Her Excellency, who has already shared with us very good points of reflection, and also just to appreciate the support and the partnership that we've continued to share with the EU as a country, but also regionally as well as continentally. And she's been able to champion the advancement of peace and security in Kenya and beyond. The EU has always been a premier strategic partner in strengthening our national, regional, and continental security architecture. Therefore, we are grateful for the ongoing support in convening the 4th Nairobi Caucus, and also to other counter-terrorism endeavors that we've been able to jointly work on together. I also want to recognize all our local and international partners who are in attendance at this 4th Nairobi Caucus. Terrorism respects no borders, and only a united multilateral effort can effectively counter it. Your participation strengthens our collective capacity and reaffirms our unwavering resolve to build a world that is free from the threat of terror. I feel privileged to be part of this forum, as it is one of the most impactful events that speaks to one of the greatest, or one of our greatest national security threats of our time. As a country, of course, we are faced with other security threats beyond terrorism. We have challenges with banditry. We have security threats that are related to climate change. We have security threats related to technology or technological advancements, and many others. But terrorism is one of the major security threats that we grapple with on a hourly basis, minute by minute. And for us to be able to have an opportunity to sit together with partners, with experts from across the globe, speaks to how seriously we take this threat, and we definitely would want to benefit from the experiences that you have gained over the years. What makes this caucus especially significant is its theme, which is enhancing border security to deter and disrupt terrorist activities. It's a strategic opportunity to confront the growing vulnerabilities of our porous borders, which terrorist groups and their agents continue to exploit to be able to advance their agenda. As we may be all aware, this caucus was conceived as an adaptive and African-owned mechanism that proactively anticipates and effectively responds to the mutating threats of terrorism. And the previous speakers have spoken to the mutating nature of terrorism as it is. It was born out of the conviction that together we can develop, contextualize solutions that appreciate the rich diversity of our social, cultural, security, and political landscapes, and effectively respond to the dynamic threat of terrorism and violent extremism that affects our continent. I am pleased that the caucus continues to grow in both relevance and reach. Today, more than 15 African countries are represented here, including for the first time our friends from West Africa. Therefore, this is a critical milestone. Friends, across the African continent, the terrorist threat landscape continues to rapidly evolve in scope and complexity. The terrorist groups have adopted more sophisticated structures to adapt to our counterterrorism efforts and also to exploit the existing and emerging vulnerabilities. They are also leveraging on technology and transnational criminal networks to be able to amplify their capabilities and extend their operations. However, we must not forget that terrorist groups are unrestrained by borders. In fact, it's no longer a secret that majority of these groups in Africa operate in and around our national borders, where a lot of vulnerabilities create conditions that facilitate their emergence and survival. These groups seem to have weaponized our borders against us. And that is why, as a country, as we try to open up our borders, we try to engage the communities, because the communities are very critical in us realizing these efforts that we are trying to put together. And based on official reports, over 80% of violent extremist fatalities are recorded across the continent last year occurred in border adjacent regions, because these have become safe havens for the groups to operate in. This geographic concentration of terrorism along the borders is no coincidence. It underscores the significance of borderlands to terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, we must also remember that the borders themselves are not the problem. In fact, borders are not barriers. They are opportunities for connection, cooperation, and shared prosperity. It is their porosity, which is caused by weak surveillance, fragmented jurisdiction, and limited coordination, that creates permissive environments for terrorist exploitation. Porous borders are offering terrorist strategic and tactical depth in terms of logistics and the dark economy to be able to advance their activities. They're increasingly becoming corridors for recruitment, arms and drug trafficking, and operational maneuvering into secure spaces occupied by our communities. And these are not just land borders, also the water borders or the sea fronts. Our task, therefore, is to transform our borders into security fortresses and neutralize these networks. And to this end, I would want to make the following propositions for your consideration over the next 2 days. One is that we must be able to enhance our intelligence and information sharing, and my colleagues have spoken to this. It is imperative that we establish interoperable platforms that facilitate real-time intelligence sharing and exchange across agencies and borders. And I'm happy that the Director Tubsan is here on behalf of several of his colleagues from the region. This includes strengthening joint data centers, harmonizing data protocols, and embedding community-generated insights into national threat assessments. Border-related intelligence must be actionable, inclusive, and also anticipatory. Number two is we need to leverage on technology so that we create smart border infrastructure. And our friend from UNOTC has spoken to some of this, including the ones that we are doing with our teams at immigration and the border management teams in terms of passenger identification, the recognition, and also what Interpol and Afripol are doing to be able to help us in managing the movement of people. Now, this infrastructure must be complemented by trained personnel and institutional framework. so that then there is accountability as well as responsiveness. One of the biggest challenges we face over time is lack of capacity amongst either the law enforcement officers or the different agencies. So we really need to find a way to collaborate better and also to institutionalize capacity building and development. Number 3 is that we need to empower the border communities and integrate them to be part of the early warning systems. An ambassador has spoken to a number of programs, as well as the soft programs that we are undertaking, particularly with the border communities, so that they feel part of all these efforts. These communities are not just passive observers. By integrating them into early warning systems through livelihood support programs and civic education initiatives, we build trust and resilience from the bottom to the top. Number 4 is that we must be able to create and institutionalize cross-border cooperation mechanism. It's self-evident that joint task forces, shared patrols, and coordinated response protocols with neighboring states are effective when well implemented. Our borders must therefore reflect a shared commitment to peace and mutual protection through structured and sustainable frameworks that are contextualized, innovative, and responsive. And when we began, we listened to the Kenyan national anthem, then we went to the East African anthem and the African or the AU anthem. And the common theme that was running in all those anthems is the need for us to be one united people, and just calling on us to look after each other without the necessity of having to compete on things that would make the growth of the continent much more difficult. Finally, we must be able to embed border security within the broader governance and development agenda. So there are issues of security as well as development. There is no development without security, and so also there is no security without development. These are mutually reinforcing points. Therefore, borderlands should be zones of prosperity and must therefore benefit from inclusive development, access to services, and participatory governance. This holistic approach reduces vulnerabilities and counters the appeal of extremist narratives. So there's a huge nexus between 3 main areas of focus, or what I consider to be also things that contribute to insecurity that then make it very difficult for us to address the challenges of terrorist activities. One, there's the issue around poverty. As a continent and working together with our international partners, we must be able to address the challenge of poverty so that we significantly reduce that gap. Then there are issues around the infrastructure and the social services and access to these services. When communities are unable to access what we consider common services, then people feel neglected. People then start to question government, and it becomes easy, or it becomes avenues for recruitment of communities. So as we look at security from the harder perspective, the social or the softer approach in terms of just bringing up communities is very critical. And the third one is the impact of climate change. If you look at how this has affected communities across the continent, where there's been too much degradation, it means the vulnerabilities go up, and then it becomes very good grounds, or it offers very good grounds for a lot of resentments. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude my remarks, I would want to invite you to consider these propositions in your broader conversations over the next 2 days, and look forward to receiving some of the the feedback in terms of outcome documents for us to be able to engage further, and also for us to be able to look into ways of intervening. I want to urge you to use this caucus to renew our common resolve and to generate actionable strategies that transform our borders into zones of peace and prosperity. We must reimagine border security not as a static perimeter, but as a dynamic ecosystem that disrupts terrorist mobility, facilitating legitimate trade, and fosters regional cooperation. Thank you. Asanteni sana.
Thank you very much, PS, for those insights that then shall act as a beacon as we discuss over the next 2 days. Colleagues, we are going to take a group photo. We shall take 2 group photos. One shall be taken in here that shall attempt to cover everybody that is present, and then we shall have a second group photo that shall.
A caucus, the 4th Nairobi caucus, focuses for the continent. We have been joined with a number of partners, with the leading partners. Primarily, we're just looking at how to progress the fight on how we can be able to navigate the mutating face or nature of terrorism. So issues on how to share intelligence, how to share resources, how to build capacities, and then also looking at the softer issues around of building social amenities, dealing with infrastructure, but also respecting democracy across the countries. And maybe lastly, just to say that for the first time, this caucus is bringing on board who are also sharing in part of this caucus. Thank you. Balozi. So let's hear from Balozi first.
Good morning. I'm the European Union Ambassador Omolo. The European Union has been strongly supporting, particularly here in Africa. So we're very happy that this Nairobi, the fight against terrorism, cannot about the new forms of terrorism, including using the latest technologies in terms of cyber, satellite. So I'm very happy that all these experts come together, and PS Omolo was saying, if we do not work together and as a continent in Africa, no hope of eradicating the scourge of terrorism. Security in Europe without security and in other regions. That's why we are facilitating those cooperative spaces, adequate and online information share, disrupt activities, and we had already joined terrorist operations. So we hope cooperative space in the next 2 days will make connections operating in the countries, because it's and actors within the country speak to each other is most important. There's no security. We're strongly supporting also soft like borderlands economic, socio-economic development to strengthen fragile communities, also enable the communities to work together with security forces. Communities, security cannot operate successfully. That this is a very important issue that deserves full support. 2 days will bring a lot of added profit to all the security operators across